organic waste, let's compost it. Compost is actually quite a low value material. So instead of doing that, why don't we reprocess it in some other way and actually get other chemicals that we can produce fuels and we can produce solvents from it. And that's what Solver are actually moving forward on. And so we're looking at this innovation. And I haven't got a slide, but I think Stericycle you can put in the same sort of thing. What we're doing is what Stericycle's doing is taking this material and moving it into another form from which we can actually take other uses, and in fact some of that material could go into the solar type process. But in all of this we need to look at regulation, and one of the things I think moving forward we're going to see much more of is this concept of end of waste. So once we've processed some of these materials that legally are waste, we take them through a protocol and we move them into a position where they're no longer a waste, they're now a product and material you can use. They have to come under the REACH regulations, but there's always regulations, but you need that. But we're going to see much more of that, and I think there's a lot of business opportunity in that process. Fuels are very important. There's various ways of processing this material. Mechanical biological treatment has come forward. At first, it was seen as an end in itself. It was a misunderstanding, actually. You know, it started in Germany. What it was really doing was actually trying to valorize to get the best value out of the material, and actually, at the end of the day, produce a fuel which was much more suited for the thermal treatment processes than just burning the raw waste. That's something that's now developing in this country quite big time, and we see more of these coming forward, and I think we'll see more for the future, because in fact I think we're also going to start to see a change in the thermal treatments that we employ to actually recover the energy. And the reason for that is because we want to move even beyond purely the energy recovery. And I put up here Energos gasification plant just by way of an example. But it means the way that you actually deal with your feedstock becomes much more important than it has done in the past. And that applies to anaerobic digestion as well. It's not just a case of getting out of food waste and slinging it into a tin can and digesting it. In fact, you've got to think about the food stock that you're actually that you're actually going to feed that digester with. And so we have changes in terms of our feedstock preparation that we need to think about. But there's an issue that comes out of that, and if I talk about gasification in general, one of the problems is energy efficiency. At the moment, gasifiers tend to be relatively inefficient to other processes. And we have a thing called the R1 formula beginning to come into the legislation that now appears within the Waste Framework Directive, and it was actually adopted, the R1 formula was adopted in this country just a few months ago. And if indeed you're going to export any waste, you have to demonstrate that for energy recovery it meets this efficiency formula. Because the next issue becomes the relative efficiency of how we're actually recovering that energy. And you hear a lot of accusation about incinerators being very poor energy recovery in terms of efficiency. In fact, what we're comparing it against is even the most advanced power stations will be at about 41% efficiency. Typically, the incinerators at about 27%, gasification probably in the teens in terms of percentage. But the measure is not 100%. It's on open cycles they are around about 40%. But we have ways now of moving that even higher, and the example is in Sheffield where we had district heating. So as we move to these advanced thermal cycles, we've got opportunity there. And it does kind of worry me when you find some of the legislation start to actually impact on some of that. The easy way, if you like, to make your thermal recovery efficient is to put in CHP or district heating, but just try and do it. It's a nightmare to do. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there because I think this has got to move in this direction and we've got to solve these problems. But where I see actually the opportunity ultimately is probably in different applications as well. And I actually believe we will see fuel cells coming forward which will change the scene once again. And maybe that's where gasification has a particular importance because we can use the syngas to strip the hydrogen and actually feed the fuel cell. And all of a sudden you're talking about 90% energy efficiency. And I can say now this is an alkaline fuel cell and I think that's about 2 years off of actually being ready for a commercial application with a plant. So I think this is now with us. But as I mentioned a minute ago, what concerns me is that we always find the politics get in the way, and of course what we've had recently has been the new standing review and the renewables, and they've changed the scene again. And I'm not going to go into that, maybe that will come out in the discussion, but where does this lead? I think it has implications moving forward, well, we'll see. And I think, again, it may actually, these latest changes may actually fit the bias in the technologies that are being deployed. So that's my sort of view of where I think we are. As I say, it's actually quite a buoyant. In fact, I'm very enthused by the whole thing because I think that there's still a tremendous future in this sector. I just want to move on to one other thing before I do wrap up, and that's a thing called the Veolia Innovation Accelerator. One of the issues that any large corporation has, and I think Stanford demonstrated this in their research work very clearly, is that innovation in the main doesn't come out of the large corporations. It comes out of the smaller companies, the startups and the sunrise companies. And to their credit, Veolia and Paris have actually understood this, and they're seeking a way of how do we get innovation into the group. So they've come out with the Innovation Accelerator Scheme, which is really an attempt to try to incorporate innovation into the company and move it forward quickly, hence the name Accelerator. So what it's about is harvesting. It's a harvesting tool, really, to get the creativity from outside Veolia into the group and to enhance the operational efficiency of the group moving forward. And this is not a fund. I have to emphasise it's not a fund, so Veolia is not going to actually put cash into the situation, but the idea is to work with the smaller companies and the innovators and to encourage them to try to see if we can get the innovations working inside the company. In what we see is a three-way collaboration between the investors, the startup company itself, the investors in that startup, and Veolia. And it's a three-way step, and what's good about it is that these steps are pretty well defined. What I will say is that it works at an operational level when you actually move the innovation into the company, and what you find is that people generally don't like change, and so there is a challenge in how we actually get these innovations into our operations, and I do actually think that's something that we've still got to address within this scheme. But it's a great it's worth having a go, and if you think you've got an innovation that could be of use to Veolia, the actual contact is on here, and you'll have the slide. So if you go through the website and you can make the contact, initially that will be with Paris, and then it will come back to wherever in the operation is thought to be most appropriate. So I think I've set the scene for this morning, I hope. I think I tried to give you certainly my thoughts on where this space is actually going. And the last thing, actually, I'd use this slot really for my own personal pitch. and this is my idea, you know, so it's also to do with outer space, and you get it there, and he says, we come in peace, where's the landfill? Thank you very much.